There were 4 men in the elevator. 2 buff men in loose suits stood on the edges, staring blankly at the wall in front of them. Next to the leftmost guard was a middle-aged British man with a graying mustache. He smiled unevenly, perhaps due to a stroke in his earlier days, such that one side of his mustache was significantly higher than the other. He was wearing a white button-down shirt with the cursive Marshall, Carter, and Dark Limited embossed on the breast. The final man was not smiling, although he appeared to be, because his face was upside down. "We have some interesting options for you today, Manny, correct?" the British man asked. "You may call me that, yes," the man with the upside-down face responded. It was a stupid nickname, but he had met the British man Burgess twice before, although he had accompanied Fuller those times. Moreover, being called Manny as opposed to something more formal helped alleviate the painfully over-professional air of the conversation. "Very good. You may follow me." The British man finished the sentence just as the elevator doors slid open. Wholly unimpressed, Manny strode behind him through a brightly lit hallway into a large red room adorned with tapestries. 3 creatures, as they seemed, were in the middle of the room inside of tight steel cages. One, a heavily neotonized old aboriginal, had her head pressed to the bars of her cage with a hungry look in her eyes as she tracked Manny from the doorway. In the other cage sat a younger boy, no older than 15, whose entire body was covered in a thin film of a dark pink substance. He did not look up. The third cage appeared to be filled with flickering fire, and the man with the upside-down face could have sworn he saw a figure shift around. "All right, what can they do?" He paused for a second. "This female one," Manny said. "I'd like to see her talent." "Ah, yes, we call her the Amazing Australian. She's able to move her center of weight a couple feet or so outside of her body, allowing her to accomplish incredible feats of acrobatics. We haven't a clue as to how she does it, but then again, we don't care." Burgess spoke with a pitchman's flair and a younger man's energy, though he knew as he spoke that folks from the Circus of the Disquieting would remain mainly uninfluenced by even the best deliveries. After all, they sold things for a living, just as he did. "May I see it?" inquired the man with the upside-down face. His eyebrow fluttered near his neck as he spoke. "Of course," said Burgess. "Anna, flip the cage." Nothing happened. "Anna, flip the cage," he said again. Still nothing. Burgess walked over and kicked the bars next to the woman's face. Shrieking, she plastered herself against the top and sides of the box and flung the box high into the air until it was jerked back to the ground with a thick steel chain bolted into the floor. She peered again outside through the bars at Manny. "Mr. Burgess," he said exasperatedly, "this woman doesn't have long to live. That little stunt is hurting her every time she does it, and she's already old. I'm afraid if I took this one, we wouldn't get more than 4 shows out of her. 5 maximum. Perhaps you would like to examine her more closely. She is healthier than she looks," Burgess suggested. "No, she's not." "What is the next one?" asked Manny. In the middle cage, the creature groaned softly. "This one has a weird property that we thought might interest you as a freak. It secretes a slippery salmon-colored substance that smells ever so slightly sweet. This one is much younger than the previous, which ought to better serve your purposes." The boy in the cage did not look up or acknowledge either man. It moaned again forcefully, then let out a loud whimper. This one's harmless." Burgess fished out a small key out of his pocket and walked around behind the cage, unlocking it. With great effort, he spun the cage around So the door was facing Manny and tilted the cage up. So a wave of pink goo washed onto the floor like a red carpet, rolling out in front of a movie star. The creature inside slid out as well on the raft of sludge, panicking. It stumbled to its feet, slipped on its secretion, and immediately fell back down. Its gaze slowly met Manny's as it desperately tried to take account of its new surroundings. Manny leaned down to talk to it, so that his forehead was just above the creature's. It looked up at him pleadingly. For a long second, Manny stood up again and faced Burgess directly. "I'll come back to this one. I'd like to see the last option, if you don't mind." "Of course, sir," said Burgess. He sidestepped carefully so as to avoid the sludge that was slowly covering more and more of the floor towards the third cage. "This one's a bit unfortunate. Lost a bet to the wrong person, I'm afraid. His entire head is eternally engulfed in flame. Perhaps this interests you, Manny?" "I'm quite numb to it, actually," the freak chimed in. It had a London accent almost as strong as Burgess. Manny smiled a wide grin that made his cheeks puff out and leaned into the cage near the fire. "You're English?" "Yes, sir," it replied. "How would you like a job?" he asked. "You'd be fed 3 times a day and clothed." "I would like that very much, sir." "Perfect." With that, Manny stood up and walked over to Burgess. "When would you like your performance scheduled?" he asked. "Our patron has requested the Thursday after next." "Great. We will inform them where it is the day of the event." Manny stuck his hand out. "Pleasure doing business with you again, Burgess." "Likewise," Burgess responded. He shook Manny's hand and handed him the key. Manny unlocked the freak's cage and nodded to himself while it made its way to its feet. "Shall I walk you out?" Burgess inquired. "No, thank you. I know the way. Send Marshall my regards." He turned. "Follow me," he said, directed at the man on fire. The two walked down the hallway towards the elevator. After getting a glare from one of the guards, they decided to take the stairs down. Finally, the flame-faced man spoke up. "Thank you," he said quietly. The man with the upside-down face smiled again. "Most people don't come with me so easily. I usually have to convince them, offer them love or money or fame." "All you wanted was to be let out of that cage," Manny sighed. "I guess some people are simple," he replied. "I guess some are." "So, here we are again," the man with the upside-down face said as the elevator doors slid shut. "You know, when Burgess did this, he had security guards. They're needed upstairs. I may have left a Circus and a Mechanite together in the same room," Victor replied with an awkward cough, pressing the button for the desired floor. "Besides, you two I trust." "Aw, that's so sweet," Lolly cooed as the elevator began its ascent. "I'm so excited. This is like getting a new puppy." "We're not getting a puppy. We're getting a new attraction for the circus," Manny reminded her firmly. "Remember that. It's not just about whether or not you like something. It has to be a good fit for us." "Relax. No one loves the circus more than I do. No one loves Icky more than I do either. And I would never let her down." "Why didn't Icky come as well, if I may ask?" Victor said. They both remained awkwardly silent for a moment. "Lolly, do you want to field that one?" "Tinkle said that Bubblegum's drinking was going to lead her to an early grave. I was just trying to help." "What happened?" "I slid her some antabuse so she couldn't drink without getting sick," Lolly replied, shrugging like it was no deal. Now, on top of being down in act, we now have a 2-ton elephant going through alcohol withdrawal. Manny sighed. Icky is currently handling the situation, and so Lolly is here on her behalf. You're not mad at me, are you? I really was trying to help. I know. What I don't know is where you got an elephant-sized dose of antabuse. You'd be surprised at what you can buy in bulk. Manny gave a nonchalant nod and decided to change the subject. Victor, tell me about this first guy again. You said he's Sarkic? Yes, but I shouldn't have, and please don't call him that either, Victor insisted. They never call themselves that. It's like a slur. I'm well aware of that, Manny said resolutely. The elevator dinged, and the doors slid open to the ostentatiously gilded showroom of gleaming tiles, lacquered woods, and crystal chandeliers, all of which looked not only very expensive, but precariously fragile. Oh, I'm starting to have second thoughts about this, Victor said quietly to himself. The three of them approached a man in front of a draped cage. The man himself wore a rather over-the-top crimson cloak, the hood of which obscured his face. Manny, Lolly, this is Valmont will do, the Circus replied in a haughty tone in accents that, while sounding posh, was clearly an affectation. And may I say, what an absolute pleasure it is to meet two such beautifully deformed individuals. Deformed? Lolly hissed through gritted teeth, her face turning an incandescent red. Easy now. Remember the guards, Manny said. Oh, you are lucky. I always take clown impulse suppressant before I leave the circus, she huffed, taking a deep breath and letting her face return to its regular color. Valmont let out a condescending chuckle. Deformities are nothing to be ashamed of, child. To survive and thrive in spite of them is proof of strength, and to flaunt them openly is to reject the masses' insipid obsession with aesthetics. Listen, Valmont, we didn't come here to listen to the gospel of Ion. We're here on business, so kindly show us what you've got. Of course, Valmont nodded. He raised his hand and pushed the veil off the cage with a single melodramatic gesture. Inside was a mound of ghastly pale flesh, lumps upon lumps like a pool of melted candle wax. Emerging from the mound were several distorted human faces, their mouths perpetually open in an eternal scream, along with a number of limbs that were mangled and twisted beyond any hope of use. Behold, not long ago, while I was reaching across dimensions, I saw a paradise where the sun itself was blessed, where its rays transfigured every living thing it touched into beings of resplendent and rapturous melody. So enamored was I that I spirited away one such flesh right into our domain, in hopes that I might be able to recreate such a Masonic plague and transmute our own abysmal reality into a utopia of instinctive, rapacious consumption. Sadly, it seems that such beautiful beings can only be created by the sun of their native realm, and it's far beyond my ken to synthesize the peculiar effects of that hallowed star. Having no other use for the poor creature, I've decided to sell it. Imagine the horror on the faces of your audience when they see this amalgam of souls, this aberrant grotesquerie, this singular pile of melted flesh, its mere presence inducing existential confusion and visceral revulsion, challenging the sanctity of nature and the benevolence of God. What do you say to that, upside-down man? Manny was unmoved by the Circus sales pitch. He looked at the thing coldly, and then turned his head towards Valmont. "It's dead," he said matter-of-factly. There was an awkward pause. "No, it isn't," Valmont replied. "Yes, it is," Manny said with an exasperated shake of his head. "Its anatomy makes it hard to move, so it's at rest most of the time. But I assure you, it is alive," Valmont insisted. "It smells like it's dead," Lolly said with a wriggle of her nose. "The miasma of necrotic and rancid tissue is to force those around it to confront the inevitability of death, disease, and decay," Valmont claimed. "No, it's indicative of its own death, disease, and decay," Manny said, furrowing the brow where his chin should have been. "Look here, Sarky, I know a dead beastie when I see one, and this thing is dead." Victor gulped at the slur, but surprisingly, Valmont didn't react to it at all. "No, it's like a predatory cat. It spends most of its time sleeping. It's just asleep," Valmont said with increasing desperation. "You're actually going to commit to this?" "It's not even breathing," Lolly pointed out. "Sleeping things still breathe." Its breathing is very shallow. It has a low metabolism to conserve its energy. Jan, help me out here." "Well, the creature was a little lively earlier, so I suppose it's possible it's merely sleeping," Victor offered. Lolly pulled a bicycle, technically unicycle, horn out from the hyperdimensional hammer space of her pockets and blew it into one of the creature's numerous ears. All three men recoiled at the impossibly loud noise, but the abominable globster didn't move an inch. "Yeah, it's definitely dead," Lolly announced. "Well, it's fainted now," Valmont claimed. "Fainted?" Lolly asked in disbelief. "Yeah, it's like a fainting goat. Plays dead when it's scared. It's a survival mechanism." "It's like a predatory cat and a fainting goat?" "Well, it is a chimera in a way, so that makes sense. It's probably got some snake qualities in there as well. Quite the bargain you're getting, really." Lolly looked at him in bewilderment while Manny just shook his head. "Mr. Valmont, if you cannot immediately provide some proof of life for this creature, we will have to pass," he said firmly. Valmont became pensive and took a surreptitious step right up to the cage, which then rattled back and forth for an instant. "There, you see? It moved." "You shook the cage," Lolly accused. "Victor, show us the next offer." "You would dare refuse such a treasure from one such as myself, no less?" Valmont asked, resuming his haughty persona. "You will rue this day, circus freak. No one denies a circus." The three of them all suddenly looked at him in surprise. "What?" "Tell me, Sarkist, where does the Valkyrion say that Adatum is located?" In all of our hearts," he replied uncertainly. "You're not really a Sarkist, are you?" Victor asked, utterly mortified. "How dare you?" "In all of our hearts. Really," Manny chuckled. I thought you were being figurative. Adatum is like Atlantis. No one knows for sure if it even existed, much less where it was," Valmont claimed. "Wrong. Adatum is where it always was, in the northern Urals. Ion just cloaked it with mind-bending magic and shifted it ever so slightly out of this reality," Lolly stated, popping a sucker into her mouth. How the hell would you know that? I watched that show, Professor Abnormal's Science Lab. He did an episode on Adatum once. And I've been there, Manny, he added. Herman had us perform there once or twice. Not the worst thing he ever did, which frankly says more about him than it does about Adatum. Point is, I know Circusism, and you, boy, are no a Circus. Okay, maybe not technically, but I'm dating a black blood girl, and her dad said if I could just get rid of this thing for them, he'd accept me as an Orin, and... Security! Victor shouted. No, please, I need the money. Neo-circuit girls have expensive tastes. Belmont cried as the two security guards dragged him towards the elevator. So, I vote no on the gross dead thing from the Sarkic poser, Lolly said. Agreed, Manny nodded. Victor, do you not do background checks on these guys? Those don't exactly work with secret societies, Victor informed him as they walked over to the next display. I do apologize for that. I can, however, personally vouch for the authenticity of this next seller. Manny, this gentleman goes by the epithet of Silicon Soul. He's a Maxwellian. Manny finished his sentence. It's obvious enough. The short man before them was pale and gaunt, with a pair of electrodes permanently attached to his smooth scalp. Their wires fed into something under his heavy black coat. There was a neural port behind his right ear, and his amber glass eyes had mechanical apertures. There was a black breathing mask over his nose and mouth, and some dark device upon his god. Though his right arm was mechanical, it hung limp and useless, seemingly as broken as his god.
It's nice to meet you,
he said in a raspy, modulated voice.
I believe I attended your circus once, as a child. It deeply perturbed my still-developing sense of reality, and the image of a man with an upside-down face has haunted my dreams ever since.
We try to make a difference. You said your name was Silicon Soul? That sounds like a screen name, Lolly commented. You go by a screen name IRL? LOL.
I consider myself a foreigner to Meat Space, and my name reflects that.
The man replied. So, what do you have for us then? Some broken tech?
No, actually. Like that circus swine, I too have a creature that I came upon more or less by happenstance, and don't know what to do with.
He took the cover off the pedestal behind him, revealing a tabby cat with dark purple fur. It was a long-haired breed, a little overweight, and its violet eyes shone with electric luminosity. It was also floating a few feet off the ground. Oh my God! It's adorable! Lolly screamed. Its eyes are just like Icky's!
I named him Hoshek, since I've heard of a similar creature by that name described of in that anomalous radio broadcast that leaks into our reality from time to time.
Silicon informed them. The one from that nexus in the southwest. Yeah, I've been there too, Manny said. Briefly, I mean. We never got to perform. We were chased out of town by a mob screaming interlopers. Can I pet him? Lolly asked with eyes as big as saucers.
Just be careful. He's not the friendliest cat I've ever known.
Silicon nodded. Lolly approached the floating feline, only for it to hiss at her. The hissing it made sounded more like something from an enormous serpent than an overweight cat. And its teeth were not even mammalian, let alone feline. Poor thing, he's scared to death. How much? Lolly, hold on for a second, Manny insisted. Aside from just not being friendly, does this animal have any other liabilities I should know about?
It is venomous,
Silicon admitted. Venomous?
Yes, it has venom sacs in its mouth, as well as some venomous spines on its back, so you do need to be careful when interacting with it.
That sounds like something you should have told us before you said Lolly could pet him, Manny said with an agitated shake of his head. What about tricks? Can it do anything?
Well, for now, it just sort of floats there, which to me seems good enough for a freak show.
Silicon said.
You did a bit of research, and I think there's some sort of flux spinning or something going on. I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's purple. It's got glowing eyes, it's poisonous, it makes scary noises, and it floats. You've got animal tamers, right? I'm sure they could teach it some tricks, or at least not to bite people. It's no more dangerous than any other animal act you have.
What happened to your arm? Manny asked.
What?
I said, what happened to your arm? Silicon took a glance down at his disabled arm, seemingly trying to will it to move, and failing.
It's unrelated to the cat.
Really?
Yes, I mean, okay, maybe it's tangentially related to the cat. When I found it, I tried to pick it up by the scruff of the neck, as you do with cats, but it didn't like that, so it somehow produced an electric surge in my arm that fried all of the electronics.
Sir, I'm afraid this animal has too many potential liabilities for us to consider incorporating it into our circus, Manny said firmly. But he might die if we don't adopt him, Lolly objected. The cat hissed again, this time flicking out multiple barbed tongues, wiggling like the tentacles of a kraken. It might kill us if we do, Manny countered. But we can take precautions, put up warning signs or something, and then everyone could enjoy him, Lolly suggested. Icky and I could use him in our pussy lovers routine, or we could put him in the petting zoo. Only if we want every child to die a slow, painful death, Manny said. Lolly, I get that this thing is cute, super cute, but it's also very dangerous. So dangerous, no one can even touch it safely. I really can't imagine any scenario where someone doesn't get poisoned by this thing. Do you want that on your conscience? You said you weren't going to let Icky down. Do you really think Icky would want something this dangerous around kids? Or up your skirt? Lolly gave the creature a forlorn look, only for it to swipe at her with horrifically distended claws. No, she admitted. Fine, we won't get him. I'm sorry, Mr. Kitty. Maybe Victor can find you someone immune to poison to be your forever home. I know a surprising number of people who meet the description, Victor said. The cat will be fine, don't you worry. Silicon, put the cover back on it and wheel it out of the showroom until the next showing, won't you?
It seems to prefer the darkness anyway,
he said, covering the cat-like creature up and hauling it out of the room. The creature produced a rolling, thunderous buzzing sound that they could only hope was purring. Victor, please tell me you saved the best for last, Manny said. I did indeed. Right this way, Victor said as he led them to the final display. Unlike the other two, this one had no attendant. It was simply a full-length mirror with an ornate brass frame, encased in some transparent material. This item came into our possession when its previous owner passed away, and we took control of their estate. And what's so interesting about it? I know this may not be the most original premise, but this old antique mirror is haunted, Victor said with a dramatic flourish. Literally nothing happened. Pepper, that was your cue, he said, still to no effect. He walked up to the mirror and gave it a gentle shake. This finally produced a result, causing a pale light like moonbeams to shine down from the mirror, illuminating the translucent figure of a pubescent girl with braided pigtails and an old-fashioned dress. Okay, I'm out. Jesus, she said, her voice an ethereal echo. She put on a forced smile and curtsied before them. Hello, people who want to buy me. I'm ever so pleased to make your acquaintance. Oh my God! Lolly screamed in elation, jumping right in front of the girl and scaring the no longer living daylights out of her. Are you really a ghost? How did you die? What do you have to do with the mirror? Are you stuck as a kid forever? How come Victor wants to sell you? Can I touch you? No, don't touch me. What the hell are you on? Clown's milk, she replied, giving her signature eerily serene smile that Victor still found so unnerving. Pepper didn't seem to find it endearing either. I don't know what that is, but it sounds gross, she said. It's no grosser than regular milk, and it's so much more fun, Lolly told her. I'd let you try some, but you're dead, and if you weren't already dead, it would kill you, so sorry. So, what's your story, Pepper? How'd you end up like this? Manny asked. Doesn't matter. You're just going to make up some sensationalized horse crap to draw in bigger crowds. True, but I like to know my freaks. Are you actually a ghost? I am. There's not really much of a story to that, though. I caught pneumonia and died. I haunted my mother because I loved her and couldn't stand to see her so heartbroken. My dad knew someone who could make a mirror that would let me be seen and heard like a real person. The mirror acts as a focal point for letting her take a semi-corporeal form, Victor added. I was actually pretty happy with my folks, considering that I'm dead and can't go anywhere or do anything. But of course, they died eventually, and now I'm stuck to this stupid thing forever. There are worse soul traps than a mirror, believe me, Manny said. If you piss off the wrong god or mage or get resurrected with any quantum retrocausality tech, you'll be trapped in your own rotting corpse, still able to feel everything until you're completely scattered to the winds. She stared at him dumbfounded for a moment. You are a weird dude, she said. Lolly tentatively ran her hand through the ghost's intangible body. She's tingly. I said don't touch me. Manny stepped up to the mirror and examined its casing. What's this you got it in? He asked. Aluminum oxynitride with a clear superhydrophobic coating, Victor replied. You don't have to worry about any of your guests breaking it, and it's easy to clean. Lolly cleared her throat and put on her most businesslike countenance she could muster. Pepper, would you like to come back to our circus with us? She asked sweetly. It's full of all sorts of magic people just like you, so you wouldn't have to be alone anymore. And I promise it's the most amazing, fantastic place you've ever seen. You'll have an enormous family, the most special family in all the worlds, who will love you and take care of you and keep you safe. Best of all, you won't have to be a secret. New people will come and see you every day and be amazed by you because you're magic. And that single magical experience will brighten their lives forever. Would you like that, Aunt Pepper?" The ghost gave an apathetic shrug. "I don't know. Maybe. I guess it would be better than being sold to some creepy rich pedophile or something. But I don't want people touching me all day." "Manny, we have to take her with us. It's non-negotiable. She's a freak and she has nowhere to go. She needs a home." "She'd be a fine addition to the den or the hall at the very least." Manny nodded. "What's the sticker price, Victor?" "We're asking $120 US," Victor replied. "Well, knowing the way you guys mark things up, that means you've got at most 10 grand invested in her. How about 20? Be reasonable. That's a decent profit margin." "Maybe by the circus's standards, but not ours. I can take 20,000 off." "Yeah, just haggle over the helpless adolescent girl like I'm a used car. That's not fucked up at all," Pepper groaned. "Hush," Manny said. "Victor, who do you think's going to pay 100 grand for a ghost? People abandon houses worth more than that because they're haunted. I'll pay 30,000. That's triple what you've spent on her, which is the same profit margin Apple has on its iPhones. Are you saying you're greedier than Apple?" "I think you know the answer to that. Lolly's already made it clear you're not leaving without her. But if it helps, I can knock a few more grand off. 96,000. 40,000. And before you counter-offer, keep in mind we're still your ticket to the utterly bizarre. Seems to me that if someone was going out of universe for the first time, they wouldn't want their Sherpas to be angry at them for gouging them in a simple business deal." Victor actually hesitated this time before answering. 48,000. Final offer." For a second, Victor thought Manny was frowning at him before realizing it was a smile. "Deal," he said, sticking out his arm for a handshake. "Gary will wire you the money by the end of day tomorrow." "Awesome! Thanks, Victor!" Lolly shouted, grabbing the mirror and sticking it under her arm. "I can't wait to introduce you to Ragamuffin. She's going to love you." "Please don't carry me sideways. It mucks up the whole projection," Piper complained. Her visage was still vertical, but it was now a funhouse distortion, as tall as the mirror was wide. "Yeah, you look silly." Lolly laughed, moving the mirror around erratically to produce increasingly distorted forms. "A pleasure as always, MCD. We'll show ourselves out," Manny said, relieving Lolly of the mirror and ushering her towards the elevator. "Take care of yourselves," Victor waved as the elevator doors slid shut. He nearly jumped out of his skin when the silence was broken by multiple sharp gasps from the flesh pile in the cage. "Oh, thank God! I thought they'd never leave," one of the faces said. "Did you see the face on that one? So much makeup. She looked like a clown," another face said. "Security, take that damn thing to Valmont," Victor ordered as he attempted to bring his breathing and heart rate back to normal. "And tell him I'm still charging him a broker's fee."